Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the film. If you don't know, my name is Michael Malice, and I want to introduce Jessica and Cody, who is the star of the film, and congratulations on this project. I know it's been a long time coming. My first question I want to ask Cody is, I mean, I know you've got a big personality, as do I, but did you feel that there was any kind of element of like this being a bit invasive to have, you know, someone documenting so many aspects of your life for so many years?
Hey, thanks for coming, guys. Can you hear me? Cool. No, Jessica became a friend, and Jessica and I had worked on a film before this film, and I felt like in some ways, I don't know, I trusted her following what we were doing, and I didn't feel like I had to be worried about her miscasting it or misunderstanding it. And so after a few years, it was more like Jessica just knew, hey, something important is happening, let me be there. And we, the team, thanks Didi for coming out, we trusted her to be there. So it felt kind of effortless, I think.
Well, I know the process wasn't effortless for you. So this baby has been a long time, you know, percolating. Can you talk a bit about how long it took, and were there times when you're like, okay, I'm ready to wrap this up, and the ball kept rolling?
Sure. In 2015, when my other film wrapped, and I talked to Cody and said, may I continue? I definitely didn't know how long that would be. Obviously, I don't think I could have wrapped my mind around it if I did, and I probably would have not done it. But I did know at the time that it had to be significantly longer, because the purpose and the motivation for this was, and for my first film, was very tired of just short segments on topics that you see in the media that were immediately biased, that weren't very investigative whatsoever. And I wanted to really see and find and show the motivations, the values, the ethics, and the reasoning behind everything, and see where everything would go. So I knew it was going to be a long project, but I had no idea. Definitely in 2018, I thought that was a wrapping point, and then things kind of kicked off again. But that was the first time I was like, "Ooh, maybe I can finish here," but it didn't happen that way.
Cody, I want to ask you, how do you handle just personally knowing that all your like legal business is so public, and like whenever there's going to be an article about you, you know what I mean? There's always going to have that parenthetical aside and try to paint you in the most negative way possible.
I handle it better now than I used to.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think you just become immune to these things, and after a while, if there's like enough of a geyser of content about you, you're almost safe in just how much content there is. It's like almost impossible to understand the truth, and you know that. Like we just lost in the Supreme Court like on Monday.
Oh, can you talk about that?
And we just got like buried by the national press.
Let's just hear this. Okay,
and,
what happened there?
Just kind of, there's just layers and layers of this stuff, and. You want me to talk about that?
Yeah, Supreme Court. It's kind of a big deal.
It's like this film is like, okay, how to aestheticize like the longest defeat possible, you know? And you know,
I should have still been filming.
Well, the losing continues. But you know, that's just it. It's like official loss isn't actually an end, right? In fact, official loss is itself a kind of blessing, as you see, like with Lasnik when we began to do the SneakerNet USB thing. Losing is almost one of the best ways to win. Winning, it's the winning that's the hardest part. You know, and we just won a couple times. In this case in Fort Worth, in the Northern District of Texas, and the Supreme Court was like, you know, no. You know, they just took it away. No opinion, that kind of thing. Look it up, no opinion, you know. So, I don't know, this sounds like complaint. It's not. It's just, you know, this production of information, this production of loss, I'm glad the document exists simply because now when people look back at 3D printed guns, they go, well, of course, there would always have been 3D printed guns. You know, it's recognized by the First Amendment. You know, we won that fight. Well, winning actually was a huge, long series of constant defeats. There was actually no victory at any point. There was only like endless suffering and aestheticization. So I'm glad the document exists for that reason.
Can you give us an idea, if you were allowed to, ballpark, how much money you've spent on lawyers since this project started?
That would be rude, wouldn't it? That would be like social faux pas or something. Yeah.
It's at least upper six figures?
Certainly much more than that, yeah.
Okay.
But we also have that much in bills that we didn't pay. So, you know. We should thank the Second Amendment Foundation, the Farmers Policy Coalition, many of the lawyers who've come and gone over the course of this film. You saw Alan Gura, who gave us the Heller decision. which is considered the fundamental modern Second Amendment decision. A number of attorneys who were the very best in their field showed up in this film. These weren't like, Lincoln lawyers. These are real attorneys. And we've had the privilege of meeting many of the best attorneys in the Second Amendment and the First Amendment in doing this work.
Did you, when you, applause is warranted for that in all seriousness. I'm going to ask you to admit something. I'm sure you thought that there was really no chance of any kind of, comprehensive legal victory on any level, that Heller was not going to happen, and if it happened, it wouldn't be enforced anyway, as I would have. So were you pleasantly surprised to see how much there was some respect for the Second Amendment in Washington?
You mean post-Heller, post-Bruen?
Meaning, like, before Heller, you're like, okay, they're never going to validate this, they're going to weasel their way around it, or were you more optimistic than I would have been?
Well, I wasn't like switched on when Heller happened. I wasn't really. I was politically active. Sure, I was in college, but I don't know that the Second Amendment like dominated my attention. So I studied it like any libertarian was interested in libertarian decisions, and the Cato Institute was involved in that decision. Ilya Shapiro tweeted about it back in the day. I didn't really understand the significance of Heller, and didn't really care about the significance of Heller. I just notched it as a win. But with McDonald in 2010, I began to understand how significant it was that the court had done this and what Scalia and Thomas were like doing. And we scored that 14th Amendment thing. What a savage burn on the states, But, more pessimism. In the the post 10-year window after Heller, you began to see like Thomas complain in dissents and stuff. Oh, the Second Amendment is still nevertheless ignored by these courts of appeal. It's treated as a second-class right. And actually, it was my, disdain or like my displeasure that like Heller was not serious and that none of this was real that led me to organize Defense Distributed.
What were some of the biggest surprises, Jessica, as you're kind of getting engaged with this whole community and meeting these people? How did they come off in real life as opposed to what you were expecting before maybe you got deep into this project?
It was so gradual that, I kind of been around longer than a lot of the people at DD in some ways. So, I have been. So I saw everything build since 2013. So some of the surprises, I guess it comes into like a personal zone of like living through the last 10 years, being who I was and seeing politics at work or not at work. It's a very like sclerotic decaying process that has a lot of like, it's just so hard to get anything done. Like, yeah, it's like the game of games. Watching how also media replicates itself and the journalism is quite limited. It's very interesting in different times where you'd see like when you're actually studying something and watching it, you see one piece drop and then everybody is literally just replicating the words across basis and you're like, oh, there isn't much research happening in this. It's a virus, right? So that was another interesting surprise or discovery as I was going, awakening as I was going through this. Also how, going back to that original motivation of every piece usually painted Cody in a very dark light. It was always, they could only discuss the rebellion if he was the absolute villain. Right. Which, they love to talk about at the beginning and then realize they were like just carrying his water and also like getting people to go to the websites. Because originally in 2013, the most amazing thing is who was it that actually like put the link in the website where to go get it? And I was like, this is what? Like, it was like this like tear down. And then I was like, oh, and by the way, you can get it here. Yeah. And like everybody hit the link.
They've gotten better at that now, though.
Yeah, they finally caught up in like 2017, 2018. They're like, oh, wait.
They're like a Texas man and a Texas company.
Yeah. So I forgot what I was saying. So seeing how how everything was pretty stagnant. Oh, I was going back to this. So original motivations and things discovered is that I learned a lot about systems being built right now, and I keep on using it, the techno-political world that's happening. So you're going from like Bitcoin, anything in cryptography, and guns, everything that is putting code and information online and watching the government try to catch up has been just a great process of learning that creation is the only way to get around what the control. So politicians aren't creating anything.
Right.
They're not there to inform us. The only thing they do is restrictions. That's the only thing they can do. And so you have to stay ahead. And creation is like the most positive thing we can do. I think Peter in the audience was asking like black pill to white pill to me on a podcast. And I was like, the only thing
Wait, what do those terms mean?
Oh, sorry, like, how did you put it? Like, are you black pilled or, oh, you're messing with me.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, I
Thank
couldn't
you,
help
Michael.
it. Sorry. That guy's a fraud.
Yeah. I burnt it the other day in my fireplace. The only way to do that is actually to outrun, and the only way to outrun is to create.
And the thing is, you have to realize that we're just trying to outrun like Chris Christie, so who was a prosecutor. So it's like, as long as you're just not downhill, you're fine.
Oh God.
I'm only being half facetious because I think, Cody, and I'd like to hear you talk about this. One of my adages is that the enemy class is not composed of impressive people. And when you see these people, Cody, over the years who've gone after you, I can't imagine that you looked at them and you were like, man, this is like Darth Vader. It's just more like, this is someone's inbred son given a lightsaber who doesn't really know how to turn on.
There's comfort in that. Like when, like Marky, whoever says like, go to Instagram, get an Insta gun, like that's funny. But at the same time, this guy has subpoena power.
Sure.
And like, I've seen the emails in the discovery in the lawsuits since the suits you see here, where they're monkeying around behind the scenes with the Commerce Department, the State Department, holding secret meetings, determining what the actual regs in the Federal Register will be, withholding confirmations to these organizations, if they don't do what they say. I mean, like, they know how to use power. And so it's not like, I like your brand of libertarianism, Michael Malice. And yet, I still find it a bit too optimistic about, it's more depressing to me that this retarded and unworthy class controls us, because yet we are still so controlled. And so, outrunning Chris Christie, sure, we can. Yet, the death athletic to me it's a little more subtle. It's like, well, we're on the high wire. We know we will likely fall to our death. And so a performance in that environment, in that condition, suspends the tragedy. The tragedy's coming, right? You can't necessarily outrun the tragedy, but you can suspend it in the beauty of the attempt.
Jessica, what do you think, if you had to name one thing, and it's going to be hard, what myth is the most prevalent among the populace that this film is trying to dispel? Like, what do people get wrong on this issue?
Well, people still think that Cody sold guns and gave people guns.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's the first hill to climb. And realizing I've been in this for so long that it is amazing how many people just don't even know the story, which is great if anybody ever watches the film. So tell your friends. Yeah, that's the first thing, is that it's always been code. And code has always been on this tightrope regarding First Amendment issues, going back to Zimmerman and Bertstein in '95, when they didn't win. Encryption was just taken off the ITAR. So both code, and this is a First Amendment issue, a big one that has, larger effects down the road.
Cody, you mentioned earlier the Supreme Court loss. I actually was not familiar with that. I'm not trying to be glib. What happened?
I don't expect you to be. So Monday, let's see. Okay, long story. Joe Biden decides, I'm going to change the definition, the GCA definition of the word firearm. Firearm's now going to mean, with my ATF, every combination of parts of a firearm that can become a firearm. Okay, great. So now, companies like ours that sell kit guns or combinations of parts in the mail, now we're selling firearms because Joe Biden has expanded that definition. Okay, so we started fighting that reg. Everyone here knows this, like 2019. We started fighting it in the APA process in 2020, and when it became a rule, we got into a lawsuit in 2021. We won that lawsuit in the Western District of Texas. The judge vacated the rule. He threw it out. He said it's blatantly unconstitutional. Congress defines what the word firearm means in the statute. ATF can't redefine it. One of the ways that you hope, Article 3 judges perform their duties, right? Hey, this word's in a statute. You can't change the word. Only Congress can change what the word means. Okay, very simple. 101. Anyway, ATF does what they do. They appeal to the Fifth Circuit. Fifth Circuit says, no, you still lose. ATF says, well, we have one more stop to go. They go to the Supreme Court and they say, hey, this is mighty unfair, Supreme Court. Judge O'Connor is defying your authority. The Supreme Court, 6-3 conservative, I'm told, still votes to vacate the injunction from the district court. We go back, we remand to the district court. Defense Distributed gets a second injunction, a personal one, instead of one that's part of a nationwide judgment. The ATF took that back to the Supreme Court last week. The Supreme Court said Monday, nope, you still lose the injunction. No opinion, no dissent.
So where does that leave you legally?
I can't sell kit guns in the mail.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, Taylor, thanks. Look, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining because this should be the opportunity that you integrate. It's just that it takes so many years is the thing. Yeah. So that's the situation. Yeah.
This film would never end.
Yeah, because there's no victories.
It's
There's only
ongoing forever.
Like Thomas Solce said, there's no victories, there's only trade-offs. So it's never going to be some great victory of good over evil. It's just you take the wins when you can get them, and don't give up fighting against people who would want you dead, who would have you dead if they had their way. I'm curious, Cody, if you've ever met like ATF people and how they treat you.
I've met ATF.
Yeah. Like I sometimes like TSA people will stop me. They're like, "Hey, I'm a fan," and I'm always like,
Well, I've met TSA people too, right? I think we all have.
No, but I mean, they recognize me, and they, yeah.
Right. When TSA people recognize me, they're like, "You're the guy that makes me have to check the," So,
yeah.
And I'm like, "That's me." So.
And then they put on the rubber gloves.
Yeah. I'm from Arkansas. I used to fly out of Little Rock Airport a lot. It's a smaller airport, smaller TSA, not a lot of stuff going on. So that TSA got to know me very well, like 4 or 5 years ago. We became friendly. And nice piece of trivia, you can fly without an ID still in the United States, so try it sometime.
Wait, how so? What?
I'll leave the surprise for you.
Okay.
You can find out yourself. Your friendly TSA agent will help you. So I guess you're asking me about like ATF agents.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't want to like just dunk on the ATF. That's like a regular thing that people do on the internet. So one time I was under investigation by the ATF and didn't know it. And then I only found out because I went to the ATF in Austin to ask questions, which is like the most critical error of my libertarian career. Like why would you go to a federal enforcement agency and just to talk? That's ridiculous. But that's how I started printing guns. I put some of that in my book. So
wait, did you like knock on the door and ask them, "Am I going to be detained?"
Oh, it's worse. Exactly. It's like, am I under arrest?
Am I free? Am I going to be free to go?
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. And then there was so much insistence on because it was Kafkaesque. It's like it's not an office for the public.
Right.
So I was like actually going through multiple doors I shouldn't have been going through, and like meeting with people. They're like, "What are you doing here?" "Oh yeah, what's your name again?" Like, "Why don't you have a seat here?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm retarded. I'm like, fucking stupid." And that was like 2012, man. So and I never really got much smarter than that, but. ATF people will come by sometimes and they'll call us on the phone and they'll even order our products, as Taylor and Stephen know. We ship things to Martinsburg, West Virginia all the time. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police are good customers of Defense Distributed. So, I would say the ATF are good customers. And after I printed the Liberator for the first time, this is one of my favorite ATF stories, they called and they're like, "Yeah, we'll take 10. And I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" They're like, "Well, you're going to ship us this stuff in DHS." And I was like, "I'm not doing that." And I hung up the phone. You just have these fun interactions over the years, yeah.
Jessica, like what, if I ask, you've been working on this for so long, do you have like another project in the works?
Yes, but I'm not talking about it yet.
Okay, well, hopefully this will get to market a little sooner than before. If there's anything else, I'd want to open the floor to questions at this time. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
Is there an update on the public library? Is that functioning, and what are the full implications of that?
So the question was, is there an update on the public library? Go ahead.
It's a public library, and yet we're so fond of it, it's becoming more of a private library. But that's not to say you're not invited. So if you live in Austin, just come by Defense Distributed. We'll take you by the library. Its goal is to be a very public library. It has 15,000 items. You heard the guy snicker over there. That's one of the librarians. We employ a librarian. Is she here tonight? Our Glen Rose librarian is here tonight. If you'd like to meet with our librarian after the show, sir, she can fill you in on how to visit.
Go ahead.
Quick question, if you could talk about how you arrived at the title, how you picked the title.
Oh, great question. How'd you come up with the title?
Was that it? Okay. Death Athletic comes from Peter Sloterdijk. He is a German philosopher who wrote a book, You Must Change Your Life. In 2015, everyone, well, not everyone, but people were reading it, and I was reading it because I was trying to study how to talk to Cody, so reading Baudrillard, Camus, everything, so I could ask him questions that would lead him to tell me things without pointing him in the direction that I thought we could go. Peter Sloterdijk, he uses the term death athlete, and it's in a religious framework. He's talking about people like Jesus that they looked death in the eye and were emancipated by it, emancipated by the fear of death, and they stuck by their values and their morals, and most of them died. So kind of modernizing it to today, where you have death athletic, like Cody says at the beginning of the film, live, die, repeat. There's more of a symbolic nature of it, but it's people today that stand for something that is going to basically get them in trouble. You have everyone from Assange, Manning, Ulbricht, Schwartz, Aaron Schwartz, which in that case was a literal death, who are death athletes. You know, they stuck by their values to push something out, despite knowing that they were going to be canceled. And it goes to the point of also, like, you can get socially canceled, culturally canceled. And so watching Cody throughout the years, it's been up and down and up and down and up and down, constantly on this kind of like ride. So it was very fitting.
Cody, I want to ask you myself, actually. When I started writing The White Pill, it was originally going to be a book about Camus applied to contemporary life in the same way that Ryan Holiday did with the Stoics. What is it from his work that you find so compelling?
I'm not a big Camus guy, but I do find the difference between, Myth of Sisyphus into rebellion. His thoughts on rebellion is interesting. Somewhere in there, he becomes resolutely anti-communist. And even if, like, that book-length essay, The Rebel, is like on man as an individual in revolt, he seems to be interested in, like, the social implications of individuals in revolt and revolt and limitation. And so if there's a connection here with Camus in this film and everything, I see how frequent it is, because I'm among extremists. I love extremist politics and extremist political cultures. I see how frequent it is to start at revolt and then end in revolutionary politics, which is basically a license for wholesale murder, you know. And I like the idea of limiting myself aesthetically and, I don't know, with games and rules, if not the law itself, like with the state. So I like that I haven't become a revolutionary communist, right? Or like I haven't found a reason for the ends to justify the means, or I haven't fallen for like a religious principle of a philosophy of history or something to justify great acts of evil and to gild my crimes. I actually think I'm playing within a really like tight rule set. And I think I learned that from Camus.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
So in the film, I guess, you name drop like Camus and some other theory people, but then after that you kind of stated, well, defiance is the principle, basically, and it's my will kind of clashing with the system, I guess. To what extent do you think there is a will opposing you, or is this just the inevitable result of a technical society? Because you'd also said basically these government agents just don't really care. It's kind of like pure exercise of power, but they come and they go. To what extent is this just a faceless thing on the other side?
Almost fully a faceless thing on the other side. I remember being a young man with some of these guys going to court our first time in 2015 and seeing men older than me, not much, reading the briefs for the government. Now, when we in court, we see men much younger than us reading those same briefs. And, you know, it's careerism for them. You know, it's just a job. I don't take it personally. I used to take it personally. You know, it's a system. But what I was saying there about the nature of the absurd individual and stuff, again, this is directly from Camus. I don't mean to make him like the icon of a film or something. I'm just saying you do begin to understand, like, oh, actually, there isn't a governmentality. There isn't an intelligence or like a will that is opposing me. It is completely absurd. And how do I deal with this like nihilistic understanding? Okay, I can kill myself. That's an answer. But maybe I can find a way to, you know, deny that and do something. So that's one of like the easiest initial questions in your decision tree. I would say Baudrillard and some of this French theory and French logic, it's not totally necessary, but yeah, aestheticizing these things, learning to integrate them. Like Nietzsche says, applying the plastic powers. Like you make it make sense in your life. You know, you integrate it, you make it your blood.
I just want to add to something. I think one of the things that a lot of people still say, Cody, like, Cody, why didn't you make a heart? Why didn't you try to like build a finger with plastic? Like, why didn't you do these excellent things, these wonderful things? And people should do that. But going back to Camus as well, and something that you're saying, what did I discover along the way, and wanted to discover the values behind it. In the end, the principles that were guiding Cody, maybe mischief was at the beginning and defiance, etc. But his action was a supreme democratic action, because once you put the information out there, it's for everyone, it's uncontrolled. And like Camus says, like rebellion is a form of solidarity, and rebellion without justification is invalid or something like that. So there's a super amazing interplay of like sclerotic post-democracy that we live in, and avenues of tech that are actually making democracy real again, that governments can't control. So
just to quickly dovetail,
yeah,
this is something, and Camus doesn't develop this like much, but he says like it's kind of like a turn on the cogito. He says, I revolt, therefore we are. And it's this idea that like, okay, it just takes one, or to put it back in the founding, you know, the high politics of 1776, the irate, tireless minority. Just a couple guys got to dig their heels in, and you can create a whole community.
Yeah, you don't need a majority, you just need an alternative. And that's what like Twitter is showing. Like, you know, having even a vague free marketplace of ideas, all these other tech sites are now saying they're not going to be censoring so-called disinformation, because what's the point? They're not going to be able to do it. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Jessica, you no doubt captured dozens, if not hundreds of hours of footage. I was wondering, what was the hardest thing to cut? What was the most compelling thing that you said,
Nice.
won't make it into the final film?
I rewatched it tonight, and I realized more and more, every time I'm watching this, I'm seeing more and more stuff that didn't make it in. And I'm like, but the most compelling, that's a hard question. Let me think about it while I'm up here, and I'm going to come back to that.
Go ahead.
This question's for Cody. What was the most satisfying experience you had in this project, and are you still holding out for it?
Oh man. Well, look, this is a tough film to watch. I don't know how you guys watched it, you know. This is not a guy having many satisfying experiences, you know. So, gosh, of the events recorded in this film, it was funny and hilarious to me that the State Department rolled over at the 11th hour. You think of Uncle Ted, where he says, you know, sometimes you accidentally win. You know, you should just stick in, because sometimes you win on accident. All right, that's good enough. And it felt that way. It was like everybody was over it. I had like died and lost for so long that the law had changed, the government had changed. We'd gone through 3 secretaries of state. You know, this thing, they were just ready to be done with this thing. They weren't thinking about it anymore. But I was, you know, so.
Going back to that question, the first thing that popped into my head is we spent some time in West Texas in Cibolo, and the footage was gorgeous. And Cody's footage disappeared on the way back. I don't think you ever found it. So it never turned into a video. I guess it just was footage for me. So it only ended up being like a montage at the end, even though I filmed a lot during that time. It just didn't like coalesce into like the right moment for this film. And that was an entire chapter that happened out there. So that's one thing that I look back and I'm like, oh, that happened, and those conversations, and it's not in there.
Okay, I think we have time for 3 more questions. Go ahead.
What time is it?
Cody, I was curious whether, and if you feel like sharing only, if digging in your heels against depression, if that's something that runs in your family or in your ancestry?
Great question.
Oh, shit.
Or just depression? I don't know.
Look, as far as I know, I'm from the South. As far as I know, you don't have to shake the chain too hard to get to some slaveholding, so. No, I don't know of a great patriotic or other type of history in my family, but I'm not trying to do my family dirty here. I'm just saying, I think one day you just wake up and you're like, man, I can't deal with the Roberts Court, and I'm pretty alienated, so I guess it'll be guns today. And here we are.
You're modern day John Galt. That's the slacker Galt speech.
Like printable guns and no further.
Okay, any other questions? I see. Go ahead.
Over the past decade, there's been a lot of conflict back and forth. Is there one lesson that you think you would kind of describe as encapsulating of it all?
Are you asking the director of the film or me?
Looking at you.
Oh, man. Of the film you just watched? Man, guys, damn. No, I kind of already said it. I think, all right, someone had asked, you, sir, had asked, like, what is Death Athletic? What is that about? I think Jessica nailed it. I didn't know she was going to name the film this, but when Slaughter talking about death performance, he's saying there's this curious feature in a lot of cultures, not just Western culture, to like die in a beautiful way, and to appropriate your circumstances and to include them in the way that you die, or even to use your death or your ultimate failure as a way of saying a final statement, a final signature on what you were trying to do. Damn, and like knowing that that we cannot win. Yeah. Death Athletic is like the highest meditation or contemplation of this imperative, an aesthetic imperative.
Okay, we got time for one more question. Go ahead.
As you guys are fighting these bureaucrats that are fairly incompetent, bumbling, did you run any that were particularly like competent, intelligent, or effective?
Sure. Harry Halpin, man. No, these mandarins are like really good actually at like immediately reassembling, like what happened. And so like the most like cunning thing that happened is like the site that we run, DefCat. In the film you see like, oh, it's this breakout thing, it's this emanation, it's this beachhead, we'll put the files on the internet. Eventually the Commerce Department, the State Department, through an act of Congress, they say like, fine, however they're doing it, just write it into the regs. The way my site runs, DefCat, was just written into a footnote in the Federal Register. Now I'm trapped by my own like arbitrary decision making. You understand? Like you're kind of baked into this weird cake that they're making. That's their cunning. They're just like, fine, we'll just overwrite it. It's this absorptive thing, and that now we are agents of the government. God damn, I thought we were fighting the government,
I've been told that there's time for a bonus round of questions. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, it might be cheating because I know the people involved, but
Ben Denio, everyone.
Is your political project really for a citizen of the last century? Which is to say, I noticed that Phil Luddy was shown in the film. For people that don't know, he was a UK resident who built his own submachine guns. And then published plans for them in a book, etc. And unfortunately, he did 5 years in jail, I believe, for that, violating UK statutes. But to formulate it, so if you look at the literature of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we have publications like Paladin Press, etc. How to make homemade machine guns, how to make homemade silencers, that sort of thing. Are we suffering? Are we modern suffering from a kind of learned helplessness where we don't even engage with the political anymore because it's too problematic or whatever? Whereas in times past, specifically the last century, it was not uncommon. We were a country of tinkerers. We were a country of people that experimented.
And so really, in a sense, isn't your political project kind of an anachronism in the present moment because nobody tries to do these things anymore or even attempts them?
That's a brilliant question. It contains its own answer, as you can see. Ben Dinio, founder of Defense Distributed, he's asking himself that question by asking me. So I would say yes, right? We're, like Codys makes this point too in his Gray Mirror, we're caught up not just in the 20th century like ideas of protest and oppression and the words that have been mentioned tonight. This is Cold War ideology, right? Camus, everything in the late Camus is simple Cold War ideology. Yes, we can analogize Cold War conditions now, but the mythology of the left-wing radical, the nonviolent protest, and the bare life in the street and all these things, this is deeply anachronistic and does not engage with postmodern conditions and mass media theory, second-order observation, and the fact that, or like Kevin Carson says, homebrew industrial revolution. Nope, been there, didn't happen, right? Been there, right? It's sitting on our fucking desk at DD. Did not happen, you know? This is a problem, yeah. And so, don't know, dude, try to have struggle sessions with you every week, you know what I mean? Try to be there. So all I can say is the questioner is right. We should all go home.
How is it an anachronism if it is basically on the cutting edge of using technology to foil the state?
Sure. Okay. One, I want to be an enemy of the modern state. Okay, what are my analogies? What are my strong historical analogs? Well, oops, I'm looking back at the 20th century first, probably, because these were the advent of some of the structures I'm trying to fight. We would note that in Death Athletic, what are we fighting? A Cold War architecture of export control, okay, and applied to the future. It's neat at doing that, but you run the risk of thinking with bad analogies, a badly formatted, you know, game. That's number one. So even your vocabulary, the controlled vocabulary, is a Cold War, you know, 20th century vocabulary, right? The regs, when we began to fight them, had not been updated since the 1980s. They did not even contemplate an internet. And you can congratulate yourself and say, haha, I win because of the internet. Nope. They're good at making reality bend to their principle too. And it is this cat and mouse game. And so, okay, well, I guess you can also think about how to be as postmodern as humanly fucking possible. But it's very dangerous to go in those places. You can get to heights that no one can find you and can't pull you out of. So I'm just saying, it's tricky and dangerous, and it's anachronistic only in that, you know, we're always having to look backwards from models, and we can get stuck there.
We can't look into the future for models.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Look, man, Codys says this all the time. Like
Codys Yarvin, for those who don't know.
You know, right-wing terrorism, right-wing politics, extremism, Codys says, is often poorly, even, you know, like who's that Otoya massacre guy, you know, Anders Breivik. It was just badly modeled left-wing radicalism because, like, we learn it from our media, right? You know, I'm not sure that I have. Can I just on the spot, like sua sponte, tell you what good right-wing radicalism is? I'm not sure that it matters. I'm not sure that we're a right-wing company. I'm simply saying it's probably a trap to get stuck in a left-wing analog for what you're doing, or story, or narrative. And that's why I think, like Jessica's mentioned, applications of media theory are essential. And finally, to your question, it is nevertheless true that people don't want a product that helps them make a gun. They don't want, this is actually the entire history, the Anglo-American history of the right to keep and bear arms. Nobody wants to be a soldier, citizen or not. Nobody wants to keep a gun. It's boring. Nobody wants to repair it or fix it. Like, the only way you can even get people interested in it is because the government wants to fucking ban it. You know, this is the whole thing. If the government wouldn't ban it, it wouldn't even be a fucking problem, you know. I know I'm getting close to it by saying these kinds of things. People don't want to use a 3D printer to do anything other than, well, I'm going to say something really pessimistic, so I won't say it.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see anybody. All right, go ahead. Is there someone back there? Is it just am I feeling like Sterner and seeing spooks?
Hand in the back.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, hand in the back.
Cody, you're an outspoken ideologue, and you've gone on this crusade at great personal costs. There are a lot of other outspoken ideologues who are outspoken but have not gone on crusades and have suffered almost no personal costs. How much resentment do you hold towards these sorts of figures?
Do you mean me? Because it wasn't fun going to North Korea. That cost money too.
I take the question as serious, but let's not make this like, oh, how bitter can a man get in one night? You know, I don't feel that way, you know. I think some of the post-modernity here, too, is like being able to have some sense of humor about it and learning to forget. And that there's a power in that, too. Like, you can be overcome with an accumulation of history or too big of a story. And just like how these bureaucrats and these politicians, they keep a short working memory, you know, so do we. So, no, I have no regrets, and I have no, you know, I don't begrudge anyone for, you know, being an extremist in their domain and not getting the, you know, their shit kicked in or whatever. I don't care. I think it's cool. And there's more and more people who at least style themselves this way and have a contempt for the powers that be, and Michael's a big part of that. That's great. So I don't know. I don't want to fall into the trap, too, of saying, like, well, I'm actually, like, you know, capital A activist. You know, I don't know that I believe that. I don't know what that is. I've met a number of activists. I know that what we're doing, like, there's something here and it's worth standing for. And that gives me the confidence and, like, the ease to do it. And so I don't feel bitter about having done it.
Anyone else? Just want to make sure we get everyone. Nope. Okay, I think we're good. Let's give a big hand for Cody and Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure.
Thank
You are welcome.